Sat Shri Akal, welcome to I'm a Brown Girl. My name's Amma. On today's episode, I want to talk about speaking up. Recently, I've had moments where I feel like I should have spoken up or couldn't or hesitated. It made me question if that's related to my childhood. I had to look inwards and figure it out because I'm tired of feeling misunderstood or having to put my needs aside to keep the peace. That usually ends up leaving me feeling quite hurt, and I end up validating the other person when I was the one upset in the first place. If this is a feeling or an experience that you can relate with, you're going to enjoy today's episode because I'm going to try and pick it apart and give some examples and situations that I've been in that have made me think of the bigger picture and understand why I feel like this, why I feel like I can't speak up, and I need to make sure that I do speak up in the future and how I've able to come to that conclusion. A couple of months ago, I had hosted for a very close friend of mine who I love and adore, and they were going through a quite rough time. So I said to them, come over, relax, come to my space, let me take care of you. Great stuff. Now, the thing is, they haven't lived out before, and there was a massive difference in the way we live because they're used to being in a family home. I'm used to being in a flat share. So the way things work in those two dynamics of a home are very different. Not too different, but different in a way where there's just a different way of living. That experience wasn't the greatest. They ended up leaving quite unhappy. I was also unhappy. I felt like I didn't have my boundaries respected. I also disrespected their boundaries. And overall, it just wasn't a good situation. And we didn't speak for, I want to say, a good month. I think we both needed the time to process what happened and ask ourselves, what did I learn? If someone is your friend and they are genuine and they care about you, they love you, they are not out here to get you. Your friends are human, and sometimes humans do things to upset us unintentionally. But obviously, that doesn't mean that you let shit slide. It's just up to you to process the situation and understand if it's something you can move on from. Luckily, in this situation, we were able to talk about it and come to an understanding that, look, certain things were miscommunicated, some boundaries were crossed, we apologized, we took accountability, and things are great now. Despite taking the time to process this situation and us coming to a better understanding and actually it strengthening our friendship, I wish I spoke up earlier and said certain things to avoid it taking so long. I feel like I could have expressed my feelings, and I wish I didn't overthink it too much and worried that, oh my God, my friend is going to think that I'm this horrible person, because that's not the case. They love and they care about me. And, if I had said something, maybe it wouldn't have longed it out so much. But either way, I'll never know. It's just, that was just one thing that made me think that, maybe if I did speak up, I could have avoided this. Or maybe it was just meant to be like this. I don't know, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say. This also made me think about my childhood and how every time there was conflict in my house, my mum would shut down completely, or she'd be angry, smash plates, you name it. She's been there, done that. My dad would get quite rude and aggressive, or sometimes my parents would lecture me for hours and try to control the situation, and that was not helpful. That would immediately make me have my walls up, and I would avoid confrontation. I would shut down. I just would bite my tongue a lot of the time, or I'd be completely angry and have rage, shout, scream, just at my complete limit. So my way of dealing with my emotions wasn't the healthiest based off of the examples that were set to me. Now, as a 25-year-old looking back, I don't blame my parents anymore because they also didn't have the best education or understanding of their emotions. So their examples set for me weren't the greatest either. And I had to put in the work to break those cycles. And I'm proud to say that my parents are very different now. Still sometimes questionable at times, as most immigrant parents are. But again, I think they are able to be a lot more understanding for themselves and me. And I do give them a lot more grace. I've learned over time that speaking up actually helps you grow and heal. Sometimes it's about finding the right words. I try to use I feel statements. So I feel hurt. I feel upset. It helps me express my feelings without blaming the other person. It's okay to take your time. Your voice matters. Needing time or the other person needing time shouldn't be taken personally. It's a process and it might be hard at first, but sometimes putting a pin in it is better than saying the wrong things or hurting the other person unintentionally. Sometimes hearing those words can be overwhelming because you might be the kind of person who wants to fix that situation right there and then. I'm not saying I'm a saint either. There have been times where I've had difficult conversations that have gone left, as we all do in this life. And I've said things that I didn't mean. I've, upset the other person, and it wasn't my intention. But when I'm upset, I'm very emotional. And in that emotion, I don't want to be cold or blunt and say the wrong thing. And I've had to acknowledge that I am the kind of person who needs time to process things. I would rather come back and talk about it. It's very exhausting when you're having a disagreement with someone you clearly care about and you don't want that situation to turn out like that. And it does. It leaves me feeling emotionally burnt out. I do want to be this warm and loving Amma that I am deep down. It's just sometimes I find it really hard to express myself in that moment there and then when something's upset me. That takes me on to my next example, where I had a situation with a group of my friends who left me in a club, which is initially how I saw the situation. I was like, oh my God, my friends left me in a club. How could they do this to me? No, it wasn't that exaggerated, but we all went out for a day party. Vibes were good. And unfortunately, they all decided to leave a little bit sooner than me because maybe they weren't feeling it. And I was in the club by myself. That took me a very long time to process. I was very upset about it. I had feelings of anger at myself that why was I unable to say no or, hey, I'm not okay with that. I wish I was able to speak up in that moment. And it took me a very long time to bring it up to them. It's just that a lot was happening and it was difficult to get all of them together in one place. But luckily, the other day, I did go and see them for dinner and I was expressing the hurt that they had caused me, that they didn't see the situation how I saw it. And they fully took accountability for having miscommunication or poor communication. They were very apologetic. They reassured me that I'm not crazy, that won't happen again. And after that point, I felt really understood and I felt reassured that, my friends understood the hurt they caused me. The most important takeaway from that was the emotional safety I felt. Emotional safety is very important when having a difficult conversation. That doesn't mean that the other person isn't allowed to react however they want to from the information you're sharing. However, the way my friends made me feel so safe to express myself and let me hold weight for my feelings made me feel like in the future, if there was anything that they did to upset me, or even if I did something to upset them, there was space to have that conversation. And I don't think that's the case with every single person you'll ever meet. But I was very grateful and happy that I was able to have that difficult conversation with my friends and they made me feel safe enough to hold space for that. As someone who does find it hard to have difficult conversations at times, I really appreciated that experience with them, regardless of what happened, because if they didn't do what they did to me, I wouldn't be sitting here understanding that I can share my feelings and I can have difficult conversations. And I can have difficult conversations with my friends who will actually understand and listen to me. I really hope I'm making sense with what I'm saying. And I hope I'm not the only one who feels crazy or like misunderstood. But I've only recently been able to have difficult conversations with my friends because in the past I've had very messy friendship breakups where I don't think I was understood. I don't think I understood them. And those conversations didn't go well. So potentially based off those experiences, I can see how I find it hard to communicate. But again, I'm glad that we're here now and I am able to speak up. It makes me feel like in the future, even outside of my friends, if there is something that is upsetting me or I feel like I need to say something, I will, and I won't hold back. And that doesn't mean I need to feel guilty for saying that thing that I need to say and think that, oh, I'm this horrible person for speaking up for myself because maybe in my childhood I was never allowed to talk and I was always made to feel bad for speaking up. Saying it out loud like that makes so much sense. I'm just glad that I've finally come to that realization. If it isn't already clear enough, sometimes I worry about what will happen if I speak up. Will the other person be mad? Will they think I'm rude? Will they think I'm this horrible person? But I realize that most people just want honesty and not silence. Facing that fear is a part of the process, and it builds healthier and stronger relationships. And like I've already mentioned, if you need a minute to process your delivery because you don't need to be rude, you don't need to say anything out of your ego, take that minute to think about your delivery and then talk about your feelings. Just know you are allowed to hold space for your feelings. Setting boundaries is essential. When I say I need space or I'm not comfortable with that, I'm honoring my feelings. Speaking about boundaries or establishing boundaries isn't selfish, it's an act of self-love. It keeps your relationships balanced and respectful. And to be clear, I don't mean to sound like one of those, I need to put myself first and I need to da-da-da-da because your therapist said that you need to do that. I've seen a couple of memes on self-love when it comes to establishing boundaries, and that shouldn't be done at the cost of you saying hurtful things to other people and then you suddenly saying, oh, I need to protect myself, because that just makes you manipulative. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying establishing boundaries in a healthy way. There's also cultural expectations that can be quite tricky. Sometimes establishing boundaries with family, being Desi and Punjabi, can be quite difficult, especially if they're older. You're always taught respect your elders, don't speak up at your elders, your mum and dad are always right. That has taken me a very long time to unlearn because, again, just because you're older, that doesn't mean it's an excuse to be a cunt. Finding respectful ways to express your feelings helps bridge that gap. I think for me, when it's come to establishing boundaries with my family, it's of course taken a very long time, but over the years, I would say my parents do respect my boundaries. There are times that my boundaries are still crossed sometimes, but I'm very quick to speak up with them, and I do it in a more calmer and jokey kind of way because that's what they kind of process. And knowing that that's the language they understand, it helps me communicate better with them. So there were times where they'd mention things about my body or my appearance, and a couple of years ago, I made it very clear to them, you do not say anything about my weight, my appearance, my hair, what I'm wearing, nothing. And since then, they don't. And I really appreciate that because it was very triggering for me. And I felt like I was very self-conscious and insecure as a result of their comments. And that has stopped since, which I really appreciate. The only way I was able to communicate that was explaining it to them in Punjabi. And I gave examples to my mum to be like, hey, how would you feel if so-and-so said this to you or made a comment about your weight or made a comment about what you were wearing? You wouldn't like that, especially when she goes to the Gurdwara and she's got her chat shit friends or aunties that say things about her. And I hate hearing the things that they say. It's just such a cultural thing where everyone loves to comment on people's appearances in the Gurdwara as well. Like, really? I helped her understand that that's not okay. And if it doesn't make her feel good, how's that going to make me feel? So she stopped since. But again, for the chat shit aunties, I think there's no help for them. That is on them. Every time I have spoken my truth and expressed my feelings, it has helped me feel lighter and closer to the people that I love. My friends who upset me, I feel more in love with them because I'm like, wow, thank you for giving me the space to have that difficult conversation. Thank you for understanding me and validating my feelings and not making me feel crazy and providing me with that emotional safety and support. And we were able to move on from it. And I just love them even more. Speaking up isn't always the easiest, but it creates authentic relationships. You can't expect to never have conflict with the people you care about. It's just the way you handle it. But it takes two people to put the effort in, to want to grow, to want to understand, to work together to move forward from that situation. Even in situations where you have had a difficult conversation and it didn't go the way you wanted because you or the other person might said something out of ego or frustration, take a minute. Please be kind to yourself. It can be difficult and it takes time to understand how to be an effective communicator. By no means am I perfect either. Like, I've also said things that are mean. If you are struggling with your words or you don't know how to express your hurt or frustration, I've always recommended journaling. I can't recommend it enough. My journal is almost halfway full and we are just in July now, so just across a little bit halfway over the year, which I'm really proud of myself. I don't know what I would do without that journal. Even if it's just on your phone, on your notes, write your feelings, write your heart out. it really does help. Put your feelings onto paper, pen to paper, it works wonders. If you're listening to today's episode and you're thinking, damn, like I wish I didn't say that, or here's a situation where I was able to deal with it really well and I said the right things and I did speak up, please feel free to share. My DMs are always open. I'd love to hear your story. So to wrap up on today's episode, it's not what you say, it's the way you say it. Be patient with yourself. Speak your truth with kindness and remember your feelings are valid. Your voice deserves to be heard. In terms of my end of episode check-in, I have been doing a lot better. I'm done crashing out. Last week, oh my God, the moon and the stars. Turns out there was some mad retrogrades going on. I think there's like 3 retrogrades going on. I say I'm not like into horoscopes and astrology. I am. I'm a liar. If I say I'm not into it, I'm lying. Yes, I am into it. I just think it's interesting. I don't believe it wholeheartedly, but I do think there's some truth to it. And, you know, I hate that I know that information because then I think it sometimes subconsciously affects the way I act. So I try not to listen to it too much. But at the same time, it's just like, it just makes sense. I'm also getting my wisdom teeth removed again on my left side. So I'll be in recovery mode, hence why I'm recording this before to make sure I can post for next week because I am a consistent girl and I would never dare miss an episode. I can't believe that we're on episode 20. Episode 20, like this just came so quickly. Like that's insane. Like where does the time go? In terms of my mental health, I have been struggling. I'm doing a lot better. I did deep clean my room. I've been having at least 1 meal a day with some snacks here and there. So I am feeding myself as much as I can. I'm getting up. I'm trying to be productive. I've been going to Roundhouse yesterday. I received an email that had me just, oh my God, it was too much to deal with. And that situation has been causing me a lot of sleepless nights. But going to Roundhouse and doing my podcasting stuff helps me have a little bit of an escapism. I'm very happy and surprised by how every Tuesday when I do go to the studio, I'm able to be productive and mentally have the capacity to be productive despite the stresses that are going on in my life. And that just shows I can do anything I put my mind to. So I'm very proud of myself for that. But again, I always try to remind myself that it too shall pass, that this is just life. It's an experience. It's a learning curve. These stresses will come and go. That's just life. That is how you learn. That is how you grow. I've also recently made some new queer friends who I've grown a lot closer with. I feel so understood. I feel seen. I don't feel insane. And this is what I've been praying for from like the last few episodes that I've made. Every episode, I'm just like, I need more queer friends. I need more queer friends. And that now has happened. And that's exactly what I needed. And those are the spaces that I want to be in. I also went to a queer day party. It was for Seasoned. They're like these event organizers. It's the same organizer for Lick, but this event is for 25 plus. And the venue was beautiful. The music, oh my God, the DJs were incredible. I don't drink, but the drinks looked great. The bathrooms were nice. Like the small details, everything there was great. Everyone was having a good time. Everyone was shaking a leg. And I was in bed by like 12:30, 1 o'clock, which for a day out, pretty nice. So I think that in the future, when I do go out for nights out, I'd prefer being in queer spaces. That is where I feel the most comfortable and safest. Apart from that, in terms of the podcast, we are at episode 20. I'm sure that I am going to probably close this up at episode 25. I wanted to close it up at 20. I don't know why I don't want to. There's a couple of things happening in August that I do want to share on the podcast for season 2. So that's why I'm not ending it right now. And I think for my last episode of season 2, I do want to plan it a lot more in depth and share some things that I've learned that I usually do anyway at the end of my seasons. So for season 3, I'll have a lot more time to plan and organize, and it will be a lot more curated. I'm really excited to share that, and that's probably going to take me a couple of months to produce and execute. Apart from that, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you felt like you could relate. I hope you learned something. I hope you felt less alone and less crazy, because communicating your feelings without hurting the other person because you love and care about them can be very difficult, but it takes time. Please give yourself some grace. You got this. On that note, I hope you guys have a lovely week. Take care of yourself. Keep yourself fed. Take it easy. It too shall pass. And don't be too hard on yourself. I thank you for watching. I thank you for listening. Thank you. Dhanyavad. Sat Sri Akal. Bye.